Christina Morales, Bio 225, June 11, 2018, salt tolerance testing. I have all my 6 NaCl tubes. I have two 1%, two 7%, and two 15%. I also have my culture broths that are active, my S. cerevisiae and my S. epidermis. I've also pre-labeled all my tubes, S. epi and S. cerevisiae. So to begin, I'm going to remove the lid from my active culture of S. cerevisiae, and I'm going to flame the lid. Now I'm going to grab the 1% NaCl tube and flame the lid of this. Okay, now with my pipette that has already been in alcohol, making sure it's dry, I'm going to grab some of my active culture of the S. cerevisiae and drop 2 drops of this into my NaCl tube 1%. Now I'm going to go ahead and flame the lip of this and close the lid. I'm going to repeat the steps for the following labeled S. cerevisiae. Now I'm going to take my NaCl broth labeled 7%, sterilizing the lid. Then I'm going to add 2 drops. And then I'm going to go ahead and sterilize my lid. Then I'm going to go ahead and close it. And I'm going to repeat this step now for the last one, the S. cerevisiae nutrient broth with 15% NaCl. Again, I'm going to flame the lid. And add 2 drops. Okay. And then before I close it, once more, flaming the lid, making sure that everything is sterilized, and closing it. Now I'm finished with the S. cerevisiae, and now I'm going to repeat this process for the NaCl tubes, but now this time for the S. epidermis. I have the first one, the 7% NaCl tube, sterilizing the lid, making sure all the bacteria is gone. I'm going to open my S. epidermis. And I'm going to grab a second pipette that has been in my alcohol, making sure that that is fully dry. I'm going to grab some of my active culture and place 2 drops of this into my NaCl 7%. Okay, now I'm going to flame the lid before putting my cap back on. Now I'm going to grab the 7% NaCl and drop 2 of my active culture. Sterilize the lid. And place the cap back on. And then finally, I'm going to grab my 15% NaCl S-Epi and place 2 drops and sterilize the lid. I'm going to sterilize my active culture containing the S. epidermis. And now this step is completed. So now I'm going to go ahead and place my NaCl broths in my incubation location for 48 hours. It has now been 48 hours for my salt tolerance testing. And now we're going to examine the turbidity of the test tubes. So the S epidermis with the 7% still it has a slight cloudiness to it, however it is not severely cloudy. So I will not say that this is a negative test result. The S cerevisiae is also partly cloudy, but it is a little bit closer to the clear side. The S cerevisiae with the 1% is very cloudy. The S epidermis with 1% is completely clear, and it does have a little bit of particles growing on the bottom. Otherwise, the broth is clear. The 15% S. cerevisiae is also, for the most part, clear. So both of these that had the clear would be a negative test result. And then the S. epidermis with the 15% is mostly clear, with a slight haze and cloudiness, but mostly clear. And that completes my observation of my cultures. I'm now going to start my salt tolerance testing. I have my 6 labeled nutrient broths from S. cerevisiae and S. epidermis from pH 5, pH 7, and pH 9 for both of them. So now to begin this, I'm going to start with the S-Epi pH 5 nutrient broth. I'm going to sterilize my lid before I begin any procedure. And I'm going to add exactly 1 drop of this HCl acid to my pH tube. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and sterilize the lid once more. And close my lid. I'm going to repeat this step for my S. cerevisiae pH 5 tube. Flaming it through. And then 1 drop of my HCI. And I'm going to close my lid by sterilizing it prior. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the lid of my S-Epi pH 9 tube. Again, sterilizing my lid. But for this one, I'm going to add 1 drop of the NaOH. I'm not placing any of the hydroxide acid into the pH 7 because it is already balanced and it does not need it. So the pH 7 ones will not be receiving anything. Now I'm going to repeat this for my S. cerevisiae pH 9. And 1 drop into my nutrient broth. And then now I'm going to go ahead and close my lid. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and grab my pipette from my alcohol and making sure that it is completely dry. And I'm going to pipette 2 drops of my active S epidermis culture broth into each of the 3 pH broths. Go ahead and add 2 drops into my S-Epi pH 7. Two drops into my S-Epi pH 9. And then 2 more drops into my S-Epi pH 5. And I'm making sure to sterilize the openings of my broths before and after, to make sure that no bacteria gets in and interferes in any way. Okay, now I'm finished with my S. epidermis nutrient broth. Now I'm going to grab my S. cerevisiae active culture broth, sterilizing the lid, and then I'm going to repeat the same steps. I'm going to grab I'm going to grab my pipette and place 2 drops of this active culture into my nutrient broths for the S. cerevisiae. I'm going to start with my pH 7. And again, I'm going to sterilize the lid. I'm going to grab my S-Cerevisiae pH 5 next, repeating the same steps. Two drops. And then closing my lid. And then lastly, for the S-Cerevisiae pH 9, we're going to add 2 drops. And now I'm done with both those cultures. I'm going to go ahead and sterilize the lid of my S-Cerevisiae nutrient broth. And then I'm going to go ahead and close my active culture containing the S-Cerevisiae. Now I'm going to place all 6 of these broths in my incubation environment for 24 hours, and then I will observe them after for growth. I'm now going to observe the pH broth tubes after 24 hours of growth, for growth. So the pH 5 containing the S-Cerevisiae is slightly foggy in the broth color. And there is growth at the bottom of the tube. The pH 5 carrying the epidermis has little particles swimming in the broth. However, it is more clear in color. It's not as foggy, and there's slightly growth. The S epidermis pH 7 is also slightly foggy in color, a little bit less than pH 5, and there are particles at the bottom growing. The S-Cerevisiae pH 7 is foggy in color. The broth also has a particle growing at the bottom. The S-Cerevisiae pH 9 is very foggy in the broth color, and it does have particles growing at the bottom. The S epidermis pH 9 is also foggy in the broth, and also has a microbe growing at the bottom. And that concludes my observation.